Hello.
My gosh, I couldn't get that off.
Oh, that's all right. You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Same on my end. That's great.
Perfect. Okay, we'll wait.
See you in a bit. Bye. Okay, you ready, Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
And we're back on the record. Just took a recess to permit the parties to confer about the question of stipulation. Wrapped up about 9:30-ish this morning, and now we're back. It's 1 o'clock. So, Ms. Hardy, where do we stand?
Mr. Examiner, the parties have reached stipulation other than CCAE. So at this point, I don't know whether CCAE is going to actually oppose the stipulation or just not sign on, but all of the other parties have reached an agreement.
Okay. So then we can talk about procedural schedule for a stipulation.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess when will the stipulation be filed?
I think we can file the stipulation by Wednesday, May 1st, next Wednesday.
Okay, and then testimony, well, there is an opportunity for folks who would oppose. CCAE is not, is Ms. Lynch with us right now? See, Brian Lynch, but not Kara Lynch. There she is. Hello, Ms. Lynch, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just working on computer connections and logistics.
Sure, no, that's understandable. So Ms. Hardy was just explaining that the parties, except for CCAE, have reached a stipulation, and then Ms. Hardy indicated it was unclear to her whether CCAE was merely not joining the stipulation or would oppose the stipulation.
And I think in talking to CCAE members, we need more time to determine whether that's the case, if we join or oppose. So
Okay,
that's why I responded the way I did. I'm sorry, we just don't know.
that's fine. That's an understandable. This is all very last minute, so which is not a comment on any here, as Mr. Stoffel correctly pointed out. There was minimal time between rebuttal and the present moment, so unsurprising that folks need time. All right, so if the stipulation's filed Wednesday, May 1st, how long, Ms. Lynch, would you like? I mean, you do have an opportunity to file. I'm pretty sure the procedure rules provide that there is opportunity for folks, if they oppose the stipulation, to state as much. And I'm just going to go to the rule.
I mean, I think it's 5 days after the filing of the stipulation. And
Yes.
I understand that maybe you want to opine on that timeline. I think it's our right to be able to oppose by that timeline.
All right. So yeah, and I'm looking at 1.2220B, contested stips. Parties or staff opposing stipulation shall file statements. I'm sorry, I'm reading so fast, Ms. Gonzalez. Parties or staff opposing the stip shall file statements briefly setting forth the grounds upon which they oppose in writing within 5 days after the stip is served, or early at the public hearing, whichever occurs first. I mean, I think the 5 days is reasonable. Is there any objection to that? That's what the rule provides.
No, Mr.
I'm looking.
Examiner, I think that's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay, and I'm only working on one screen today. I usually have 4. So it's tricky to just go off the laptop because I knew you all were going to only join us for a minute. So that's why I'm operating where I am at the moment. So 5 days past Wednesday the 1st is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Tuesday the 7th. For CCAE to take a position if they're going to oppose it, do so by then. All right, and then testimony in support of the stipulation. I mean, what I would like is all the parties to tell me why the stipulation is a good result. So if you have a witness who supplied testimony in this case, well, you know, well, I guess if you didn't have a witness supplying testimony, if you're just sort of like watching in the wings, I mean, Miss Lynch, I know CCA didn't supply a witness here, so I guess if you guys are going to oppose the stipulation, ultimately, you will have to have a witness come and provide that. But that's sort of getting ahead of myself. I think it's useful for the commission to understand as fully as possible why all of the parties support. Now, if you've had a witness file testimony, then have that witness explain to us why this is a desirable outcome. And I don't not trying to suggest there that I need you to tell me about your negotiations, right? You're telling the commission this is in the public interest because, or whatever the legal standards that are applicable are. You know, because obviously, for instance, that 10% thing that's out there, that was obviously everyone opposed that, and I'm guessing in this stipulation I'll see something about that. So just explain, right? I don't think that's terribly onerous, just to tell the commission why this is a good result. And if you didn't have a witness, you know, I suppose as a matter of pleadings, I mean, why couldn't counsel for the entity just say, you know, we support this for these policy reasons? It seems reasonable. I mean, parties can take positions without supplying evidence. So you all can do that. All right, and then Miss Lynch, if you guys do end up opposing it for whatever reason, oh, I didn't say the date for the testimony in support of the STIP. So if the 7th is for CCA taking a position, what about a week later for testimony in support of the stipulation, the 14th?
Mr. Examiner, I think we could do it earlier than that. I think we could file probably on Friday, May 10th.
I'm not opposed to that. If May 10th. Ms. Lynch, why don't we say if you decide to oppose, it will be give you till the next Friday. Is that acceptable?
Okay.
May 17. I mean, we can just set the rebuttal for the applicant. I'm guessing you would want a pretty quick turnaround, or rebuttal for the stipulating parties. And I'm just sort of, you know, it's the what if, right? Like we don't know if it's going to play out or not. But I mean, I'm guessing since Miss Hardy, sounds like the applicant's eager to get this moving. If they file testimony in op, then how soon thereafter can you file the applicant and then your other stipulating parties file testimony in response to that testimony?
I think we could do that by May 21st.
Okay. All right, then we get to hearing on the stipulation. Ms. Gonzalez, what is your availability?
I have a 2-week trial starting May the 20. It's just after Memorial Day. It's that week, like that Wednesday after Memorial Day.
Which day is anyone know when Memorial Day is?
Yeah,
May
it's
27th.
yeah, so it's the Wednesday of that week.
If we could have the hearing the week
Before?
right after we file the rebuttal, that would be.
Ms. Gonzalez, are you available the 23rd and 24th?
I can make myself available, I believe. And I have to
Okay.
say it that way because I have to look and I'm not able to do that.
That's fine. We'll tentatively schedule it for the 23rd and 24th.
Mr. Examiner, I think could we just do the 24th?
Just the one day?
I think one day would be,
If there's only one
Mhm.
party opposing ostensibly, if everybody's on the same page, yes, then it would be a quick process, right? If there's only one party opposing, then yes, there also probably would just be one day. I think I was defaulting back to 2 because we had scheduled to 2, so that's where my brain was. That's fine on the 24th.
Your Honor.
Yes,
just
go ahead.
I'm scheduled to be on vacation that day, and I think my associate backup is also scheduled to be out on the 24th of May. If I could ask for the 23rd, that would be a lot better for me. I don't know what Ms. Hardy's conflict was, and or any other day basically in May, I think would work for me.
23rd work?
can we do the 22nd?
I'm just kind of saying yes without even looking at my own calendar. I always do that. I just feel like, what else does one do except work? I
Actually,
don't know.
Taking this look at the calendar now, I have a different hearing.
I'm sorry, Mr. McMillan, I'm not hearing you. Please repeat.
Yeah, you're really broke up.
I'm sorry. I have another hearing actually between the 21st and the 23rd. Is there any chance we could do the week of the 28th?
Yeah, Ms. Gonzalez isn't
or
available then.
27th? Dang.
And 27th is Memorial Day.
I can probably find someone to cover if we need. If we put it on the 23rd and my other hearing has not concluded, I can find someone.
For the 22nd, Mr. McMillan?
Or the 22nd.
Yeah.
And I have free, I don't see anything on my calendar for the 22nd, so I'm not opposed to that.
I just, it may be obvious, but what I heard is that SPS has rebuttal due May 21st.
Yeah, it would be the next day. I realize that's problematic.
Well,
I mean, yeah. Sorry, were you trying to say something, Ms. Hardy, or was that Ms. Lynch?
well, if we're concerned about there needing to be more time between rebuttal and the hearing, I mean, we could shorten. I mean, CCA's testimony could be due one day earlier if they're going to oppose, and we could move our rebuttal up one day. Because if they are going to oppose, they will have had the stipulation since May 7th.
I understand. Ms. Lynch, is that acceptable to you, or that's still?
That's fine.
So the testimony in op, if any, May 16. And I will write this all down in an order. So I know you guys are, I always end up in the position where if someone's like saying a bunch of stuff and I'm like, I didn't write down any of that. One time when this guy who was a law partner yelled at me about that once. Actually, Christina Armijo yelled at me about that once. That was wild. She made me cry. She was really something else. I was her law clerk for a short period of time, and it was incredible. And there's a longer story to tell you about, and I'm not going to tell you all, but you wouldn't believe if I did tell you. Anyway, all right, so we got, just to go over it again, STIP file Wednesday, May 1st. CCAE will state its position. And Ms. Lynch, I'm happy to give you guys the time. So if you even if you decide ultimately you're not going to oppose it, if you're going to support it, that'd be useful to know. So if you can just supply that either way on the 7th. And nothing extensive. If you're going to join it, just, one page or like whatever, one line, we're going to join the stipulation. It's just useful for me.
Yeah, as soon as we know, I'll let everyone know. I'm not gaming the system in any way. I'm just being honest about where we are.
Sure, that's understandable. All right, so then testimony and support, May 10th. To the extent to which there will be any opposition testimony, May 16. To the extent to which there will be rebuttal, the 20th. The hearing will be May 22. I mean, I do want to say, I don't know what the commissioners will want to do with any of this, so I will tell you that in all likelihood, we will 100% have a hearing. I don't think anyone should assume that we're just going to not meet to confer about these matters. But I don't have, they're engaged in other things at the time with, right now, so.
Mr. Hearing Examiner,
Yeah, Mr. McGecko.
public hearing, is there a possibility of having that on the 23rd? Because this is rapidly evolving, and so far, it looks like my staff can meet all of those dates, except he has a conflict on the 22nd now, I am told.
I think it's Mr. McMillan who's the major obstacle to the 23rd.
Your Honor, I can make the 23rd work, either myself or I can find someone to cover. It was the 24th was the bigger problem for me.
Oh, and then was it Mrs. Hardy who was the 23rd was bad?
We did have a concern, but I've heard from our witnesses and I think we can do the 23rd. We can make it work.
Again, I'll put this all in an order to clarify, but the hearing date will be the 23rd. Is that okay, Mr. McGecko?
Yes, please, and thank you.
No problem. Okay, I mean, I guess from my perspective, I just look forward to seeing the stipulation, waiting with bated breath. And I just want to make sure everyone understands that this morning I wasn't trying to give any lectures or anything. I just think it's important. And when I first joined the commission and I was, sort of Carolyn Glick was my mentor for a long period of time. I'm just going to share a quick story. And, she felt very strongly that the stipulations actually are very challenging for the hearing examiners because frequently, in this case, we don't really have it, but oftentimes what ends up occurring is the stipulation date comes before we've received intervener testimony. So we know, of course, what the applicant requests and we have their testimony, but we don't know what is given up. We don't know what it is that folks thought was important and then, moved on for some reason or another. And what ends up happening is the hearing examiners and the commission then get into a place where they have to figure that out. And if you're doing your job as diligently as you can, we want to know. And so now what's interesting here is we have all this testimony. We know what the debate is about, at least as between the parties. So it's a bit of a different circumstance, but that's the trouble with stipulations as far as the hearing examiners division is concerned. Makes us do a lot of work to figure out what it is you guys have done. So anyway, I don't have anything else on my side. I will reduce all this into an order. I wasn't sure if someone was trying to chime in earlier. Please go ahead if you were. Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll conclude the proceedings for today and thank you everybody for coming and thank you, Ms. Gonzalez, for your willingness to be flexible and as Ms. Hardy said, whatever the cost of today's proceedings are, that sounds like the utility will make it work.
Thank you. And Mr. Examiner, we are happy that we can present a solution that addresses the contested issues. So hopefully this is all easier for the commission and Your Honor. That's our hope.
I understand.
Thank you for